Good morning, fellow anglers. Welcome back to Rick's Fishing. Hope you're all keeping well. So, I have been unable to sleep the last couple of mornings. I've been waking up way before the alarm clock out of sheer excitement at the prospect of where I'm taking you guys to fish today. So, all year there's been 3 fisheries on my mind that I'd like to eventually get to. And now that the temperature has dipped by maybe 10 degrees compared to the heat waves we've been experiencing all summer, I figured now was probably a good time to get rid of that itch and visit one of the big 3. So, in my mind, those fisheries would be Rockbourne, Avington and Testwood. And today I have the pleasure of making the journey to Avington Trout Fishery near Winchester. So couldn't be more excited about this one. Minimum stock size is £4, and last week a chap was lucky enough to catch a 14.5 pound brown trout. So just off to pick up my fishing buddy Sam. We haven't been out together for a few months, so looking forward to seeing him again. And also we'll be meeting fellow YouTuber, fellow creator, fellow content and angling enthusiast Grandpa Chris R at the venue. So yeah, all in all, hopefully it'll be a really exciting day, and I'd love to bring in my first double trout to the camera for you guys. So see you on the water. Cheers. Right guys, before we start, I just thought I'd share the setup. So I've got 2 rods today. I've got my tiny little 3-weight stream rod, just because I fancy the sport, and on that we have a orange and black stalking bug. So yeah, little small 3-weight, very light outfit. If I catch a big one on this, that's going to be a humongous amount of fun. Spoke with Chris earlier, because like I said, he's the experienced guide today effectively, and he said that when the water starts to cool down at Avington, orange patterns do really well. So yeah, we've got our orange and black stalking bug on that, and then we just got our standard 10-foot 7-weight graze rod. So everything's set up on a floating line. All the patterns to begin with are that orange colour, so this is sort of orange fritz. So yeah, 10-foot rod, floating line, 8-pound leader, because that's the minimum strength here, 12 foot off. And then on the little rod, again, we've got 8-pound leader, but because that's only a little 7-foot rod, the actual leader is only about 8 feet long. So that's the setup. We got one standard sort of rod, and then we got one stupidly light little rod just for extra sport. So yeah, let's chuck it in, see how we can do. Yeah, so as I walk around the lakes, effectively we're stalking here. There are some decent fish out in the middle, but it's also worth just a little sort of first tip of the day, guys. A lot of the fish in here will be where you can't see them as well. So, you know, rather than just look out into the middle and go, oh yeah, there's no fish there, or yes, there are some fish there, it's almost probably worth dumping a stalking bug just along the side and just almost walking up these reeds, because a lot of fish will just shelter in next to the reeds. Again, like I said in one of my previous videos, trout like to feel safe. So yes, there'll be some out cruising in the middle in broad daylight, but chances are there's going to be a lot more just hugging the reeds. Also, if there's any damselfly nymphs in the water, of course, before they emerge, they're going to wander over and climb up the reeds and emerge as those mature damselflies. So the reed beds are always worth a little look at just in on the side. But obviously don't get too close to the water's edge, because remember, again, as I've said before, the trout's field of vision is 330 degrees. So if you're right on the water's edge in this crystal clear water and you're peering directly down on top of the water, they will see you, probably before you see them. So it's always just worth bearing in mind. Yeah, I'm presenting that bug right in front of this rainbow trout, probably about 5 pound in weight. It's drifting down in front of it, but it's showing very little interest. Yeah, so we're going to move down into the main lake, just carry on having a little look to see if we can spot any decent fish. And once we get into the main body of the lake, then we can switch to the longer 7-weight rod with the orange lure and thump that out and hopefully get that aggression going. Right, so we've got our first clue of the day here. Just jerk. that orange fritz back, and a rainbow swam over from probably 8 feet away, darted over, and then at the last minute turned away. So we know the colour has attracted some attention. Potentially the fact that it turned away is a sign that maybe we need to drop down a size or two. Right, so not much action on Lake 1. A bit disappointed with that, guys, being that this is the Great Avington, but yeah, too early to judge anything yet, and I feel like I'm being a little bit sort of tongue-in-cheek there. Right, guys, I'm just at the top of Lake 2 here, and yeah, cast out this orange kind of fritz and had 2 bow waves, just didn't get a snatch. So that's probably the most positive. There's another attempted take, but just didn't get it into its gob. So anyway, right, yeah, happy to stick with orange for now. Quick chat with Chris, and he actually had a lovely brown. I've just seen it on the stringer. He's actually had 2 fish so far, 2 salmon eyes nil. Yeah, lovely brown, like I said, probably in excess of 8 pound. Tactics wise, he's using similar colours to me, but he's actually fishing statically under a bung, under an indicator. So obviously I'm going to try that next, but that might explain why, even though I've been getting follows on this sort of sharply tugged back orange pattern, there's been no actual committed takes. So it may be that the fish aren't necessarily fully committing in chasing mood today, and maybe just static fishing is the way to go. So and finally, guys, we have one on. Big Avington rainbow. Yep. And that was just literally perseverance in the bright sunshine, trying different colours, and eventually this thing took a black and white fritz, heavily jerked across the pond. It shot over from the side, grabbed it, and now it's off like a steam train, guys. I reckon this might be my PB rainbow. Bear in mind, my PB rainbow is currently 7.5. This looks to be quite a deep fish. Yeah, really, really strong fish. Please don't get off. Yeah, I was starting to get very frustrated here, guys, I must admit, because you really have to be very, very accurate with your casting here, because there's so much surface weed, and if you try and retrieve your lure too fast, you know, it comes in too high, you try and let it sink, then you're into weed on the bottom. So it's really just a case of persevere, and it's just really just down to the law of averages on a day like this to get something to grab. Now this thing literally is coming in with about 5 kilos of weed around it, so yeah, I mean, it's just one of those summer things, but it's a bit disappointing. To be honest, I don't even know if the fish is on any longer. I think it might just be the weight of the weed here. I know the fish is in it, but it's hampered by all this surface weed as to whether it can run or not. Anyway, we have a rainbow on a day where I was starting to kind of give up a little bit, so pleased with that, but just need to get it in now. Along with all this weed, my god. There we are, we have it. We have it. Well, it's not a PB, unless you count the weed. But yeah, decent fish nonetheless. Yeah, that's just what I mean, guys. Look at all that. Anyway, we have our first Avington rainbow. I'm going to put that down at £5. Nice fish. Like I said, it shot across from about 15-20 yards away, absolutely blazed over to that lure. And here we have it. So yeah, let's get another. We've got 2 fish left on the ticket. Yeah, so that's what that took, guys. Like I said, my basic thought processes, which I'd like to share with you guys, was to obviously start the day with Chris's orange recommendation. Lots of chases, no commitment. Bright day, bright lure, chose a cat's whisker, nothing, not even a sniff actually. Then decided to go black, nothing really happening there, so kind of just mixed it up between black and white, just because it was one of those tricky days and I was trying to hedge my bets. So yeah, that's what that took. Happy days. Right guys, so yeah, decided to switch this up again. As I kind of demonstrated before, changing colours is just what it's all about when the going's really tough, as it is on this bright, hot, sunny, weedy day. A bit hotter than expected today actually. It was just supposed to be kind of... Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to change off to an Apps bloodworm, and I think, yeah, the strategy is, it took some time to get there, but I think the strategy is just keep changing. It's tempting to kind of flog the usual successful patterns, and it's tempting to follow the rhetoric of bright lure, bright day, which is of course a good place to start. It's a good template. But then all of a sudden, what worked, 20 minutes ago, suddenly gone dead. And at that point, I think generally it's a case of just trying to switch it up a little bit. So, yeah. And sometimes changing up requires you to think outside the box. Don't have a clue what this is, but it was sent to me recently. And as far as I'm concerned, it's got all the ingredients there. It's got black, it's got a little green attractor, a little bit of silver on the body. So yeah, let's give that a go. And it's got a big hook for these big fish. And we are in with our second fish, guys. Just as I started to give up all hope, just as I thought not even beer will fix this frustration this evening, I stick on an antique dog nobbler, lime body, white tail barely existent, but it sinks quite nicely in these weed infested waters, and we have our second fish. So yeah, feeling kind of few really about that, because it's, yeah, like I said, it was starting to get pretty frustrating with the amount of money we've paid today. But yeah, first cast anyway, and we are in. If this gets off, San, I'm going to jump in and literally plough in after it.
What was it?
No, it's still on, it's a rainbow. But if it gets off, I'm going to jump in after it.
What fly are you using?
I'm using a really old dog nobbler from the 80s, from the 90s, I don't know. Lime body and a little tiny white marabou tail with a little brass head. So it's a bit like a cat's whisker, but without the wing on it. Having said that, the temperature seems to have dropped by a degree or two, so maybe it'll wake up a bit. I'm guessing about 4. It's not as lumpy as the other one. The fight's blooming well though.
My smaller one fought really hard compared to the big one.
Yeah, I'm just being really careful because, like I said, this second fish has been very hard earned. I feel like I've put in a whole day's work. Come on, fishy. And they're strong fish, guys. I'll give them that. This one's got a gorgeous magenta stripe down it. Yeah, hey, we have our trout. Could be about 5-6 pounds actually. It's quite heavy. Right, there we have it, guys. Second fish of the session. Hard work to get this one, but yeah, rewarded with that lovely, pretty little rainbow. Well, say little, I'm going to weigh it now, but I'm thinking about £5. Yeah, there we go, guys. That's what that took. Basically, I just call that my sort of cat's whisker dog nobbler. As you can see, it's got that original dog nobbler design of the Chanel body with the marabou tail. And yeah, I had that 6.5 pound rainbow on the first cast. Thought it was lighter, but yeah, 6.5 in the end. And I think really I'm kind of now retrospectively understanding the lessons I've learned today. So the trout are following lots of the sort of fritzy, flashy type stuff, but just not committing. Tried trimming the tails, that didn't really make much difference. And the fact that I get a fish so quickly on this, which is effectively the same sort of idea, you know, a lure with a marabou tail. The only difference is this is really scaled back, and I think it's just one of those sort of typical summary lessons. When the going's tough, scale back, try and drop down a size, etc, etc, etc. And I think that's why we had success in this. So one more fish to go. I'm not hopeful, but we're going to give it a bash and see how we get on. Right, and Sam's in here. He's been looking at these fish underneath this tree for a while. It's kind of got the tail of a brown, like a big spade tail on it, but I'm sure I've seen a stripe of pink. So who knows?
I want to get out of that tree.
Yeah, that's an awkward spot.
I knew it was awkward. It's what. Let me get out of it when I can.
Right, so right into open water.
Got it out the difficult bit. I might walk it round, you know. Actually, I might.
If you can bring it in here, I could probably reach over for you. Trouble is, it comes in with so much weed on it, it just makes it more difficult. The fish kind of stop fighting when it's like that.
Just full mind bugger.
Could be a brown, you know. It's actually all the way over there.
Yeah, I know.
And your line's stuck in about 10 kilos of weed there. Yeah, this weed situation.
I'm going to walk around. It's over that way. I'm going to walk with it.
Yeah, so Sam's playing this fish. And really, the unfortunate situation here at Avington today is just the state of the fishery in terms of weed.
I can't even see it.
You know, I know it's the summer and weeds actually obviously going to be prevalent, but you know, there should be someone out in a boat clearing this, because at the end of the day, we're kind of in this impossible situation now where the fish is just stuck in this quagmire. Here, let me maybe get the net in, Sam. Yeah, kind of released a bit of weed for you. Right, let me get underneath it. Okay, I'm underneath it now. I've never had this at a fishery before. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh mate, that's about 20 kilos of weed, that is. Right, where is it? It's a brown. It's a brown. It's a brown, and it's got it's 20 kilos of weed around it.
I can see its back. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a good brown, but that's a disgrace, to be honest, in terms of the state of the place. Right, we'll come back when we clear this shit away, guys. Right, so there's Sam's brown next to a size 11 foot, guys. That thing is going to be at least £8. Well done, Sam.
Yeah.
Right, so after a very, very, very tough day at Avington, tougher than expected, the final strategy is to stick on a snake. A lot of the time today, the trout were kind of following with enthusiasm and kind of chomping and not connecting. So, yeah, the assumption would be that they're obviously nipping at the tails. Tried trimming the tails, the marabou tails of my lures down. Made a difference maybe to like that one last fish, but overall, yeah, nothing really happening since. So I've decided as one last measure, because really I just feel like going home now, I've just stuck on the snake, because obviously it's a nice big long juicy black lure and it's got one hook right at the back. So if they do feel like nibbling on the tail, they will pay the price. So yeah, that's the final strategy. Hopefully we get to finish our bag limit of 3 off now. Right, just as I say, guys, I'm going to go home because I feel like I'm wasting my time now. It got off. Fuck.
No.
Okay guys, that's the day at Avington done, and having been there for 6 or 7 hours, I would now like to give you my review, but I want to split it into two halves. I want to talk about the fishing first and then the actual venue. So fishing today, obviously I always try and go through, like any self-respecting angler would, go through a logical thought process. So if it's a bright day, we choose bright lures. If it's a bright day with murky water, we choose dark lures. If it's a dark day, we choose dark lures, etc., etc. So there's these kind of general rules of thumb. But yeah, today none of that really applied, and so I must admit I kind of struggled initially trying to figure out, you know, what the strategy is, and therefore I guess the strategy became just swapping every 10 or 12 casts, trying something else. But therein lies even more of a problem. Once I found what worked, which initially was the black and white Fritz, then suddenly every cast after that for the next half hour went dead, and then I had to then start switching it up again. So effectively it was one of those days where, you know, there was no strategy apart from just keep changing, and eventually I feel I was lucky enough to get into a couple of rainbows that were around the sort of 6.5 pound mark. So yeah, that was the fishing. Oh, I would just say, and this ties in with the general review of the venue, fishing naturals like little sort of shrimps and buzzers and you know, such like little nymphs was basically impossible because of the level of weed, and that brings me on to my review of the fishery itself. So essentially, looking at the website, got very excited at the prospect of fishing Avington. Had two very sleepless mornings, you know, woke up well before the alarm just with excitement for the last 2 days. Looking at the website, you know, people come from all over the world. It's one of Hampshire's finest fisheries. And then I got there, and I have to say, in terms of the actual fishery itself, it was just covered in weed. I think I said at one point that its weed issue was worse than Croydon. Basically, there was thick weed on the lake bed. There was thick weed on the surface. There was just detritus all over the place, and if you were lucky enough to spot some trout, then obviously you really had to try and pick and choose your cast, and it you know, the weed just made fishing very difficult. The actual stamp of fish was really good. You know, at the end of the day, Avington charges more than other fisheries because the fish generally are stocked bigger. Now, they're not just big rugby balls of fish. The actual fish are really well conditioned, really well proportioned. Probably the best conditioned trout I've seen, especially Sam and Chris's browns of 9 and 12 pound respectively. I'll stick the pictures up after this. Those browns were fantastic. So quality of the fish was great, but just getting at them with the thick weed, it just made the whole experience very frustrating. And to be honest, I probably had one of my most stressful, headachy, annoying days fishing that I've had for a very long time. Despite the quality of fish, the whole experience could have been better if the fishery was well managed. In other words, I expected more from what is one of Southeast England's premier locations. At least that's what they say.
I think I'd echo what you've said there, Rick. I think nothing made sense today in regards to tactics, in regards to time of day, in regards to what worked, what didn't. It was just changing until you find something that you felt you got lucky with. I didn't think that the only one fish that I feel that I actually targeted specifically, I got with specific tactics, was the brown at the end, because I thought, right, nothing's working here, let's try something a bit different. I crawled into a tiny little hole. I managed to catapult flick a bug in front of its face. It engulfed it, and instantly it reacted, hooked it, but then within 30 seconds it was near on ruined. The whole experience was ruined by the weed.
Yeah.
And suddenly I went from enjoying myself to a potential PB brown to, oh my god, if I lose this, what next? Because it was just covered in about 20 kilos of weed. And suddenly it went from enjoying to panic to not enjoying.
Yeah. If I could just wrap it up, I'd probably say you're paying a lot of money to fish at Avington because the fish are, you know, big fish, and pretty much anyone who's lucky to catch one may actually get a PB, but that's not what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. As you said, for the same money we could have had 3 fantastic days out at Ashdown Forest, for example, catching little stockies, and we would have had 3 great experiences. For me, the fee that they charge is as much about the experience as it is about the stamp of fish, and the experience there just wasn't there today. It just wasn't a fun day's fishing. It was a frustrating day's fishing.
I think you could have had a far more enjoyable and fun day fishing with ultralight gear for stockies than you would have. I mean, I caught my PB at the end of the day, but I don't feel I've had as much fun doing that as if I have catching £2 stockies on ultralight gear. So that
well, it makes sense, because at the end of the day, for you to catch your PB brownie, you needed my assistance to net it, along with literally 20 kilos of weed. And it was just a balls up in the end, quite frankly. But cracking trout, like I said, brilliant stamp of fish. But the weed and the conditions of the fishery just ruined the experience. So, all right, guys, we'll leave it at that. Make of that what you will. But my advice, if you are considering going to Avington, might just be a case of just waiting until the weather cools down a little bit. Presumably, then the weed won't be so much of an issue.
I agree.
Right, okay, guys. Tight lines. Feel free to comment. I do read and respond to every single one. So yeah, tight lines. See you in the next episode. Cheers, guys.
Bye.